Functions are a huge part of Excel and will make your experience working and performing calculations much easier and more efficient. Excel functions are predefined formulas that are used to perform specific calculations quickly. Excel has more than 400 functions and they fall into various categories such as mathematical, statistical, text, date and time, logical operators, and lookup functions. We will explore many different types of functions and learn how to use them, but before that, we need to understand how to write them correctly. Functions must be written in a specific way, which is called the function syntax. Like a formula, a function always starts with an equal sign. This is followed by the function name and then one or more arguments. Arguments are also called inputs or parameters, and they contain the information needed for Excel to calculate the function properly. Arguments must always be written within brackets, and if there are multiple arguments, they must be separated by commas. Now, arguments inside square brackets are optional, and the function will work without them. An argument is often an individual cell reference or a cell range. Let's have a look at the sum function, which is a simple and frequently used function to add cell values. The sum function syntax looks like this. The sum function must contain at least one argument, and additional arguments are optional, as we can see from the square brackets. Now, these number arguments can be actual numbers or references to cells or a range of cells. Let's write a sum function with actual cell values to see what we mean. We can use the sum function to add up all these cell values. Since these cells are adjacent, they can be referenced as the cell range A1 to A5. This is considered a single argument because remember, an argument in the sum function can be a number, an individual cell reference, or a reference to a cell range. Now that we know our argument, let's enter our function into cell C3 to tell Excel that we want to add up all the values from A1 to A5 inclusive. We can do this by typing the cell range or by selecting the cell range by clicking on the first cell and dragging to highlight the rest of the cells. Now, although it's a good habit, you don't necessarily have to type function names in uppercase. Excel will automatically capitalize them once you finish typing and press enter, and then immediately calculate the result. Now let's try the sum function again, but this time let's use it to add up only these three values using their cell references. Since we have three individual cell references, our function will have three arguments, separated by commas inside the brackets. This function tells Excel to add up the values in cells A1, A3, and A5. Now, if we had entered our function as this instead, would it mean the same thing? Remember, a colon between two cell references tells Excel to include all cells in between. Therefore, this function would add up all the cells from A1 to A3 and A3 to A5, which means that cells A2 and A4 would also be included. That is why, if we check, we should get the same result of 150 that we got with our first sum function. Alright, let's write yet another sum function, but now this time include a number as an argument as well. Let's add up cells A1, A4 to 5, and the number 500. So this time we have three arguments, each of a different type. We have referenced an individual cell, a cell range, and a number within the same function. We should get a value of 600 if we press enter, so let's just check. And that's correct. Now, what will happen to our answer if we change all three of these values and make them 0. Our function contains a number argument, which means that 500 is added to the sum of cell A1 and cell range A4 to A5. If these cells add up to 0, we will still be left with an answer of 500. Now there's a cool shortcut we can use called AutoSum when we want to calculate the sum of a row or column quickly. The AutoSum icon is found under the Editing group in the Home ribbon. If you want to add up a column, just click on the cell immediately below the last value in the column and click AutoSum. Excel will then automatically insert the sum function for you. If we now want to add up this row of cells, we just click on cell F1 because it's the cell to the right of the last value in the row, and then click AutoSum. AutoSum is the fastest way to find the sum of rows and columns, especially when they're long. Now, just like formulas, functions can be copied using the copy command or the fill handle. If we want to find the total of each of these columns, we can enter the sum function into cell B6 using AutoSum, and then copy this cell across our row using the fill handle. Excel will give us the sum of each column in no time.